Perfect. We are live on Facebook and on the BlueJeans app. I know that most likely we're going to have, same as yesterday, limited capacity on the app. That's why we went and okay, I fixed the echo part. We went and we did the Facebook Live just to get more people participating and watching and asking us questions. Hey, Rich Pisani, do you still, am I still echoing or?
No, you're not.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so welcome everybody. Hot topics, interesting times, challenging times. At the same time, we're here to address what's going on and how to tackle those times together as a community. We had a great panel yesterday, and today we have a couple of additional people who joined us. Just one note: make sure that you mute yourself when you join us, unless you're the speaker. So today we have Nancy Driscoll Carnahan. She is the one of the biggest boards. President of the biggest boards in the state, which is the SRAR, the Southern Regional Board of over 10,000 members. We have Troxell, sorry. We have Rich Pisani, who's the broker of records, KW Calabasas. We have Richard Dascom, broker of record, Keller Williams Coastal Properties. We have Tina Burke. Are you on the line?
Yep, I'm here, Meny.
Hey, Tina. Tina is a licensed both realtor and appraiser for many, many years. So she's here to talk as an appraiser. And we have Alex. Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Alex Kerr. Alex is a mortgage broker, and he's going to give us his perspective. And the reason we brought those great people together is just to get their insight, their opinion, and once again have you guys ask questions. I'm going to see what whoever is viewing us as well might have to add or to ask. So from those perspectives. So the first thing I want to do is to share what the guidance is, so we'll know what we're talking about and around, and we'll take it from there. So give me a second. I'm going to share my screen, and then hey, Richard, Richard, just thumbs up if you can, virtual thumbs up if you can see my screen right now. Okay, cool. Okay, so 2 days ago, or a few days ago, the governor, gave the stay-at-home order, and CAR 2 days or day after, which was 2 days ago, then came up with this statement. I'm just going to jump to this specific section. The real estate industry is not exempt from this prohibition, except as needed to maintain continuity of operation of construction, including housing construction. Therefore, realtors should cease doing all face-to-face marketing or sales activities, including showings, listing appointments, open houses, and property inspections. Client and other consumers are also subject to these orders and should not be visiting properties or conducting other business in person. Property management and repair work, which generally involves maintaining sanitary and safety conditions, is permissible. And then it talks about the part of the MLS and so on and so forth. So let me go back to my screen over here. So let's hear from you guys. First, brokers of record, Richard. What is your input about that guidance for more people, for more agents to understand?
Well, the guidance is that there is basically no face-to-face with clients, no open houses, absolutely. Because I think even today the governor has come down and and said gatherings of people should stop immediately. So there's no face to face, but there still is a way to do it. You can do it virtually, and I know I'm probably going to repeat for those of you who were on the call yesterday, but I was on a broker conference call with CAR on Friday, and brokers in the Bay Area have been under lockdown longer than we have, and they are conducting business. They're doing it virtually, and they're able to get into deals to close deals. So it can be done. And I think Richard sent an email yesterday to Meny and I, and I think it'll be a good thing that we should share as to how they are doing their business virtually. I mean, they're not showing person to person. They're doing virtual tours with vacant properties. They are, and this will have to be a conversation between you and your seller. If it is occupied, they ask that the seller leave the premises for an hour. I'm not so sure about that. I have to get a consensus about that, so I'm going to skip over that one. But they are doing their business, and I do want to note that for those listing agents, if you are doing a virtual open house per se, utilize the syndicated remarks in your listing, because those syndicated remarks don't have the same rules as public remarks. So you can advertise a website, you can advertise a link to a Facebook Live page, or even your own. The way that I used to use it was to put my contact information in, so that when it went out to Zillow and Trulia, and there was another agent attached to this listing because they paid for the area, my name came up in the remarks. So utilize that's available. That has been available to you. So utilize it now. So I'll turn it over to Richard.
Thanks, Rich. But just a quick note: if you are people keep joining us, please mute yourself. Thank you, Richard.
One thing I would add to that is yes, shutting down all the open houses in the MLS today. We are still working with the MLSs to find out if we can do further promotion within the agent portion of the description to let other agents know that there are virtual tours, there's Facebook Live, etc. happening, but we have yet to hear back from CRMLS. But they are definitely trying to work on ways around it for us to keep it out there and keep things moving forward. I've got a lot of questions about having the contractors there, the photographers there. They're not exempt. So if they're going to go to a property and take photos for you or do a virtual tour, it's going to have to be, again, agreed upon by the client. Somebody's going to have to make sure that they desanitize or sanitize the properties. And it's a case by case. So communication with your client is going to be key.
Hey, and I'm going to drop some questions here and there before I'm going to.
If I can tag on to that.
Sure.
Richard had mentioned that they've contacted their MLS about possibly working through and putting links and whatnot. I did contact our MLS department, and that's where we came up with this. Well, you can use the syndicated remarks to suspend MLS rules. I don't foresee that happening because it's such a process. The MLS committee would have to meet and vote on that. Then it would have to go to the board of directors, and then it'd have to go to whatever your MLS vendor is. So I don't really anticipate the suspension of MLS rules to get around that for public remarks, but use those syndicated remarks.
Good points, Rich. Thank you. Before I'm going to take some questions, so Nancy, can you hear us? Nancy Troxell?
I'm here.
Okay, great. How are you?
Good. How you doing? Thank you for including me this morning.
Thank you for joining us. So tell us from your perspective, what, as an insider in the industry, what do you see out there? What are you experiencing? What you can share with us?
Well, first of all, I'm going to do a little disclaimer here. I am the president of the Southland Regional Association of Realtors. However, many contacted me yesterday to join this conversation, and I am speaking. I will always be mindful because I'm an officer of my position. However, the opinions I'm giving are my opinions. I'm a real estate broker. My brokerage is Broker and Trust Real Estate, and I'm a one-man office with a network of other brokers. And so I just wanted to say, that I've been, I'm in the thrust of a lot of what's going on because of my responsibilities to all the members of Southland Regional Association Realtors with relationship to association services. So I was on a call a couple days ago with the regional chairs and vice chairs for California Association Realtors, and heard a lot of updates of what's going on and how to deal with transactions that are in process, and of course how we move forward. And this was prior to CAR releasing their interpretation of Gavin Newsom's orders, but there are differing opinions on the essential, our industry as an essential profession or essential business. So we really need to watch what's coming out regarding that. If you're in the middle of a transaction, that could be deemed as an essential financial business. As far as having a client that potentially, needs to occupy their property with the tenant or sell because of their necessity, it could be interpreted. So the CAR really didn't address, and Gavin Newsom didn't address the granular opinion about what's essential and what's not essential. They did kind of a broad stroke.
Right.
So I can tell you that tomorrow we're having a panel. We're putting it together right now, debating that subject. So I think that's all I'll say right now, unless there's a question.
Yeah. Good points, Nancy. And once again, this is new to everybody. And I want to commend you guys, and most likely it's happening in different boards right now. The leadership is taking action and sitting together and working together to understand how to tackle those tough, challenging times, and really understand what we need to do. Before questions, Richard, do you have any questions or
I
comments?
just wanted to ask her, did they talk about moving companies? I've had a lot of agents ask me, are moving companies exempt or not? Do you have any idea?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, that could be deemed as essential if you look at the definition of the process of transactions and closings. I have some documentation that I pulled up. I might be able to share it regarding this in particular. Sorry. This one here.
Sure.
So if you look at this paragraph, and I need to share, I'm going to cue it up first. Okay. And now I'm going to see if I can share via. Do I have the ability to share Meny? Yeah, I guess I do, huh?
Yes, top screen, the second one from the top, this little share
Okay.
screen button.
Okay. Everybody see that?
1 second, I'll tell you. Just a blank screen right now. Can you scroll to the page that you're trying to share?
Yeah, let me.
And what? Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah, we can see it right now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. All right, so this says where it says provide credit and liquidity to
Now it's
customers.
gone. Now it's gone. Just FYI.
Oh, okay. Then I know how to fix it. There. Now you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, so provide credit and liquidity to customers, and then down below where it says essential workers who are needed to process and maintain systems for processing financial transactions and services, payments, clearing, settlement, wholesale funding, insurance services, and capital market activities. So, it's a matter of interpretation right now. And, the press just jumped all over, California's directive and told everybody, it's almost implying, well, I shouldn't say this because they didn't imply, but the point is it's not, there's no law against realtors right now. But that's the perception, I think, of the public. So it's a very interesting, there's a lot of, what's the word I'm thinking of? There's a lot of confusion. Let's just put it that way. A lot of confusion right now.
Right. Thank you for sharing, Nancy. Good points. If you can just drop the share screen on your side. And also, I'm going to also share on Facebook Live a link that Kendra Miller, thank you, Kendra, good to have you, just shared as some article about the moving company. So that's also a good article or a point of reference. Good stuff, Nancy. Really, much appreciated. A question and once again, you guys keep asking questions in both platforms. I'm going to ask those questions in a few minutes. But Tina Burke, appraiser.
Yep, I'm here, Meny.
Hey, so can you bring up some points from your point of view, because I know that we had multiple questions coming from agents about that topic, if you don't mind sharing.
Right, no, not at all. So I'm kind of working off guidelines of some of my clients that are national lenders, big lenders, and they have a protocol that they're asking us to follow, basically asking some questions before we get to the property, maybe of the listing agent or the borrower if it's a refinance, something like that. But if anybody in their household has traveled to like a level 3 country with a level 3 health notice and following all the CDC recommendations, they're not stopping the order flow. So that's not happening, although the turn times have been extended. So most of these AMCs or appraisal management companies have performance turn times, particularly on purchase transactions. So they're putting those purchase transactions ahead of the refinance transactions in most cases. And then also letting the client or the contact you're meeting with know that you may be wearing a mask, that they should open up the doors and windows to the extent that they can. Also, if you want to wear gloves, let everybody know what you're going to be showing up as when you're there. And then everybody should be mindful of the 6 foot, distancing.
Right.
And if anybody's sick, or if, communicating, how I'm feeling, or if I've had any symptoms, then obviously not going on any appraisal inspections. But asking the clients, they need to be prepared to answer those questions and not be offended, because there are people who are laughing and thinking that it's, do you really believe this? And so, depending on the news source that they get their information from, not everybody is a believer in what we're all talking about here. And that's something to be completely mindful of.
Such a great point that you just made, because sometimes, we just fast to judge, and you don't, if you see that this guy down the street with his dog and mask on his face, we shouldn't judge because maybe he's taking care of elderly person back home and is trying to protect this person or what have you. So thank you for bringing this up. It's important to understand, and show some compassion and understanding, and not to judge anybody for whatever circumstances, right?
Yeah, that's. I had a lady yesterday who laughed at me and said, we don't believe in that. And I said, well, I'm going with what the information that's out there, and I'm following the guidelines that I'm, suggested to follow through the CDC and others. So I'm following that. If we can't come to an agreement on you guys, being respectful of where I'm at, then we can't have that appointment. And I'm really laying down the law with that because I have a 90-year-old mother, and I'm already not able to go see her. So, and I know everybody on this call has somebody who's an at-risk person. So, more at risk and elderly. So I'm having to really, if somebody can't be respectful of that, then we're not going to have an appointment for the appraisal, for sure.
So here's one question, Phoebe, before I'm going to jump to Alex, who's a loan officer. Are you experiencing, and it's a very short period of time, right? But are you experiencing any cancellation or from both, lenders, or
Yeah,
that
no.
canceling, or let's say buyers, sellers that asking you, hey, to postpone or to cancel?
No. Everybody, at least the people that I have I have clients that are, like I said, national lenders, and the people on the other end are pretty grateful, especially the agents who have transactions going, for sure. But even the people that are refinancing their homes, they're grateful that you're willing to come and do the inspection. For the most part, I would say this is 98% of the people will play by the rules and not have that, sort of a thing. But no, they're not. I see the order volume ramping up. I also see, there's longer turn times, and like I mentioned earlier, the performance turn times, which they do hold us to, those are being extended, and they're not keeping track. But I don't see the order volume declining at all, and people are not saying, please don't come, at least not with me.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Tina. Good notes. I appreciate it. Alex.
You got it.
Alex,
I'm here.
just
unmuted.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. So a couple of questions. Share from your point of view, what are you experiencing as a lender? And then also, if you don't mind mentioning, because a few people asked as well, hey, is there any kind of actions that lenders will take to do things more kind of like remotely or virtually or whatever?
Sure. I think Tina made a great point just starting out with transactions are still getting done, right? So the appraisal standpoint of going into a house was, I think, a big concern at first, and she's still going into houses, as are the appraisers that I work with. So transactions are still getting done. The point she made that is really important is just the expectation point, right? With the turn times is understanding that things are going to take a little bit longer with people working remotely. And that's the big point that the banks are dealing with right now is just it's just a little bit tougher to get deals through, for sure. But are things canceling? Not really. Are things getting done? Yes, for sure. What I'm seeing on my end is the volatility of the interest rate market is something that you definitely want to make your clients aware of. Day in and day out, rates are changing 3 or 4 times a day. And it's definitely hard for us to explain to the client why it's happening. But really, from the bank's perspective, it's a bit of a liquidity question. They're nervous that they won't have the ability to keep lending. So a lot of the banks that are doing loans that are what are considered, I guess, outside of the box loans these days, like those bank statement style loans that some of your lenders talk about, or just stuff that isn't just a regular FHA or Fannie Mae loan. a lot of those lenders are either stepping out of the market or increasing their rates dramatically to try to slow down the flow of loans. But from like a perspective that, like a price point, I guess, that we're dealing with in Long Beach a lot, which, $800,000 home, that stuff is still going forward. And banks are still getting those closed. And all of the guidance that I'm seeing from my banks is that they're going to continue to do that. They're all positioned. They've gone through this a bit in the past, and they have the reserves, they have the means to continue to lend. So I'm not seeing a lot of stuff cancel on my end. I'm just seeing a lot more people really seeking the information, and it's really incumbent on us to give them that. So yeah, that's where I'm at. But loans, the big point is that loans are still getting done.
Right. Here's a question for both you and Tina. Can an appraiser stay outside, do exterior appraisal, and the seller or agent do a FaceTime walkthrough in the house?
I'll let Tina answer that. From my perspective really quick. The approvals that I have all require interior, exterior photos and an interior viewing of the house. So I don't think that's going to be possible from the lending standpoint as I see it, but feel free, Tina, to chime in.
Yeah, no, that's not going to work because you're outside of your, you're definitely outside of most lender guidelines for an interior inspection. So the appraiser has to take the photos themselves. So FaceTime wouldn't really do it. They need physical photos of every room, the hot water heater, you guys know the drill, the CO and smoke detectors. So and they need to see it for themselves in order for them to be protected, because something could be hidden if there's a big hole in the wall at some, what have you, whatever the case may be. I would say the short answer is no, that doesn't work until the banks or the lenders start ordering exterior appraisals, which I think they could, depending on, maybe not in the lending purchase environment, but in the refi environment, they could, depending on the equity in the home. Also, the automated valuation models could also be used, to get through. And I know some people are doing those, and have been. But until they start ordering the exterior appraisals on the purchase transactions, I don't think, because I don't think you can do it. There's no way FaceTime's going to work.
Touch on that real quick, Tina. What she said, the automated valuation, those are the inspection waivers that we sometimes get. That Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have both come out and said that they're going to up or kind of loosen the guidelines and offer those inspection waivers. They're going to try to offer those inspection waivers a lot more now, considering the environment.
And then another note that I'm going to make here, because we had the same questions as different regarding different professionals. What we came up with, and that's what it's being done currently. If it's an appraiser or any other, it's mostly that currently. You either ask if it's a vacant property, it's not a big of a problem. But if there's someone in the house, so you ask the sellers to leave the house for an hour or so, and then the appraiser, let's say in this specific case, is going to go in and do their appraisal. Tina, any other notes about that, or?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if going back to purchase transactions, so if there's an agent who is willing to meet the appraiser and the people who are living in the home are able to leave, that just gives everybody a little bit more of a comfort level, possibly. Doing everything that you can to, I would say, make all parties comfortable. That obviously the vacant homes are the best, but if not, then yeah, maybe the listing agent meets the appraiser and the people who are at the home, take the dog for a walk, just like a showing. It doesn't take long to do an appraisal if the home's not high level multi-million-dollar home.
Right. Alex, a question for you. Are lenders locking in rates for a longer period of times?
Yes. Definitely on the refinance side, they are. One thing to really understand from your guys' perspective is that purchase transactions across banks are always, always, always going to get prioritized. And that's, or if you're not asking the loan officer in the transaction if the bank that they're using or the bank that they work for is prioritizing purchase transactions, you need to start. So the goal, I think the benchmark is probably a 30-day transaction. And, maybe that's skewing out to a 45-day transaction at this point, but everything that I'm still seeing is getting done where underwriting's taking a couple days, conditions are taking a couple days, the CD's taking a couple days. Times haven't really increased dramatically in that sense. But from a risk perspective, to save my client's interest rate because of the volatility in the interest rate market, for sure I'm locking the interest rate for longer just in case something weird happens, right? We have to be nervous of people's job situations, right? That's I think the big part of that addendum that you guys are asked to get now is if we're in a transaction for 30 days and all of a sudden someone's job goes away 15 days into it, we need to come up with a contingency plan, and I need to lock the interest rate for an amount of time that would allow me at that point to come up with another contingency plan, i.e. adding parents or doing something like that to the loan. So for sure we are adding time to the interest rate locks.
And another question regarding that, what are you seeing with buyers that currently are being laid off or putting on some kind of a leave? Are you still able to close those loans?
It just depends on how the employment is verified. So all of the banks have come out and said now that they're going to verify employment like the day before the loan funds, even just on the day of the loan funds. They're going to call and make sure the person still has their job. It hasn't gotten to a point yet in terms of timing where I've been posed with a situation like that where someone has lost their job. An agent in the office and I are in a transaction right now where the client was sent home last week and was just told this week that they have the funds to bring them back, but both him and I were pretty nervous about what potentially would happen. So I can't really tell you because I just haven't seen anything yet. I know that people have a lot of paid time off. They have a lot of vacation time that they're potentially going to be able to use in lieu of being able to work. So hopefully we can get them done, before anything like that happens. But I'd have to have another conversation in probably 15, 20 days to really experience a situation like that and give some guidance there.
Good points. Thank you, Alex. Question for Rich and Richard, our brokers. Can you elaborate a bit more about putting listings on hold or withdrawal or other status that you might recommend, or what we're dealing with right now?
That's just really a conversation with the client. I had that yesterday and the day before with my listings. I've got one that expires in a couple weeks. They said let's let it finish itself out. I have another one we've got 3 or 4 months left on it, and they said, you know what, I'd rather not lose a buyer that may be out there looking right now. And in fact, one of those listings is being shown in about an hour. So there are still people out there showing, even though CAR says don't do it. We're all independent contractors and people are doing what they're going to do. If it is put on hold, it will stop the days on the market in MLS, but it will continue typically on Zillow and a few of the other sites. With hold, same thing, they're going to show in those other third-party sites as. But again, it's a conversation with the seller and what's best.
I don't know if everybody heard Richard because he was a little jumpy, but I think what he was saying is that to have a conversation with your client, it's really up to your client. There are 2 ways to look at it, to do it. You can put a property on hold. The thing with putting a property on hold is that you need to give the MLS a date as to when it's going to come off of hold. Now, which is perfectly fine, and the days on market stop in the MLS. Or you can withdraw it. Withdrawing it from the MLS means that there is still a valid listing in place. It just stops those days on market, and you can always put it back on active when both you and your client think the time is right. So either one of those days, but as Richard did point out, how the third parties days on market and whatnot, they do it in their own. So the days may still accumulate there, but on the MLS, they will cease once it's put on hold or withdrawal.
Thank you. Good point. Anat, please mute yourself. Thank you. Another question, if anybody want to share from their experience, someone was asking, how can we do virtual showings? How can we do virtual showings? And just one example, whoever was asking the question is, right now, you're watching us on Facebook Live. That's one way to do a platform like of a virtual show or virtual open house. Let's say that you don't want people to come in to the property physically, but I think, and once again, if anybody else want to share from their experience, you can do a FaceTime, you can record a video of the property or whatever it is. But anybody else has some idea? I also saw that someone wrote something with, use a drone. You can, go around the house and whatever. Anybody else want to share some ideas that they have or? Yeah, Nancy?
Oh. Go ahead.
Nancy, can you hear us? Wait, Nancy, hold on. We cannot hear you. Hold on for a second.
So I was actually going to speak when it's appropriate on what's going on in the Bay Area because I was on a call with a bunch of people from all over the state. So yeah, Please. So come back to me.
Just go for it.
Oh, okay. Let me get my notes up. Yeah, I had a meeting. I mentioned it earlier with the regional chairs and vice chairs for the state. So I got some.
Nancy, can I? Sorry to interrupt you for a second. Can you try just to bring your hand closer to the camera? Just your hand for a second. I just want to just try to fix your focus is a bit off. You're a bit blurry over there. Can you bring your hand close to the camera? Maybe it's gonna fix it. Okay, that's fine. Sorry, go for it. Sorry for interrupting you.
No problem. So I'll just go through quickly some of the notes from the meeting from all over the state. So moving companies are not moving families. This is in the Bay Area. So make sure that your providers are going to work. They're saying 120 to 180 day escrows. That was specifically from Bank of America. Appraisers aren't wanting to appraise. Wire fraud is a big problem. People are actually still having wire fraud issues because they're not calling in their wiring instructions and relying on email, and there's a lot going on in the internet right now. From Southland Regional, we are in the process of taking down all the ability to schedule an open house. Area meetings around the state are now converting to virtual, which I think we'll all benefit from. The legal hotline from California Association of Realtors, they're getting a lot of calls from nervous buyers, a lot of property management company, a lot of local ordinance questions, many cancellations. So property management is an exception to the governor's guidelines. This is kind of a big deal. CAR is addressing the money that's coming from the federal government. Right now, it's only benefiting W-2 employees and not benefiting 1099. So they're addressing that. CRMLS on the call was the chairman of the board, and they will be discussing next week the whole question about days on the market. There's a lot of concern about mental health for our members. So I know at Southland we're going to try to organize some kind of agent support meetings virtually. And the CAR addendum, the form, it's a work in progress. It's going to continue to evolve based on feedback. And I will post a bunch of websites for current information. And yeah, I guess that's it for now.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That's great info. Are you referring to the coronavirus addendum?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Can you guys, Nancy and our brokers, can you expand on that? A few questions came in regarding the coronavirus addendum was, if it extends escrow, if you extend escrow, can you get the EMD back, or how do you address the removal of other contingencies, appraisal or loan or physical contingencies? Can you just give a quick, few seconds about this addendum?
I really cannot. The part of the reason we're having this broker meeting tomorrow, broker manager meeting, is to discuss maybe, best practices, taking into consideration that addendum. But I don't have any specific input for you regarding that at this time.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Nancy. Same question for Richard, from your experience. Once again, only because it's fresh and new, and nobody really, there's not black and white currently. If you guys can address it from your experience so far.
So far, I have had agents reach
I'm
out.
getting a lot of. Oh, go ahead, Richard.
I've had agents reach out where they got it ready to fund, and then the client lost their job. We have another situation where the seller wants to cancel because they can't get their up leg. So these were in place at the time. So it's just back to communication, and they'll have to work together. And to tell people across the board is communicate with the potential, communicate that it's not going to close on time, and get everybody people. The addendum is not really going to help us today. 30 days from now is when it help us as more people are losing their job, from what I'm seeing. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Rich?
I don't know of any, I haven't heard of any agents who have been successful in adding this. I mean, we all know that it needs to be agreed by both parties. The initial option one is what's in regards to delaying escrow, and if both parties agree to that, and the escrow is delayed for X number of days, the stipulation in that paragraph states that if they still can't close after that predetermined time frame, then deposit would be refunded to the buyer. That's the emphasis, I think, on that addendum, because that's no option. Then there's other options after that, most likely benefiting the buyer. The first option possibly can benefit the seller, because there are things that delayed. I got a call from an agent yesterday, in regards to it's supposed to close next Friday, and they don't have anybody to move them. So what happens in that instance? What I said to the agent is, well, have they tried to find the mover? They're moving next Friday, and the answer was no. I said, let's do step one, see if they can find somebody to move them, and then let's go from there. So, but this addendum wasn't in place at this time, so it's going to be a rough road as to if we're canceling at the end of a transaction, how all of these are going to be handled. It's an uncharted territory, so I don't really know how to answer that question.
Sure, and that's one of the reasons, by the way, that Nancy and the board meeting tomorrow to discuss that, which I think is very valuable based on the circumstances. And Nancy, I'm not sure if you, first of all, Nancy, thank you for sharing those two links, and I did copy and paste those to the Facebook Live, so see what Nancy shared with us. But also, James made a comment. Maybe there can be some kind of abbreviation of the addendum that simply clarifies the content of both consent of both parties to continue inspections, appraisals, showings, etc. So yeah, a good point, James. And I think that's what that's the idea for the board to gather tomorrow and just bring all those pieces together as we move forward. Every day is a new day and new challenge, and we don't know how it's going to look like a week from today, 2 weeks from today. So those are all great points. Just looking if we have other questions. I think we addressed most of the questions online. Anything you guys want to add? Tina, Alex, Nancy, Richard?
Sure.
Just yeah.
I'll just add that, if you if you were in a transaction prior to the addendum, the purchase agreement in and of itself does not give any provisions for what's going on right now. That's why part of the reason why they came up with the addendum. However, I believe that there is a state, and I'm going to see if I can paste it into the conversation here, or I can pull it up. There is a state provision. Oh, I have it. If I can share, I can show you what it says. 1 second. Go back to here and
You got this, Nancy.
okay. You guys see that?
Can you just scroll to your screen? We can see it, but it's blank right now.
Maybe you can ask while I'm bringing it up, somebody can make another comment on something else.
Yes, I have another question. Someone was asking about how do we address concerns or what have you to the representatives of the state, maybe the governor, or I'm not sure if that's the question, maybe locally city, but most likely, CR level. Is there like a link of some kind? Is there an email? Is there any point, Rich?
We have a designated person. It used to be Alex Creel, who was our liaison to our state representatives. I don't know his last name. The new one his first name is Sanjay, and he is in contact with our representatives. He's our link to all of the representatives on the state level. So, CAR has a great relationship with our legislators, and believe me, they're fighting for our industry on the front lines with our legislators to find clarification and whatnot. Nancy, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, no, it's just, again, it's work in progress here, and I think that they're trying to create. They're gathering all this information, and hopefully, that's why I think it's valuable to get everybody's input and come up with maybe a suggestion as to more practical ways of dealing with it instead of the broad stroke that was handed down. So we have to give our opinions, I believe, to the state. The state needs to listen, I believe, to the members and what's going on, and try to, deal with kind of the case-by-case scenarios. Do you guys see my screen now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So the legal principle of force majeure, where an act of God excuses performance due under a contract may apply to the COVID-19 outbreak. While the RPA-CA also does not contain a force majeure clause, the concept may be available under California Civil Code Section 1511. And then it says the section provides. I don't know if you want me to read that, but the point is you may want to, that may be a handy tool for you if you need to, if your client needs to cancel and you need something to cancel with if you don't have that addendum currently attached.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for sharing this. Another question, not sure how to address that. Let me find if someone that can answer that. But yeah, Richard, there was a question from Kendra over here saying the new addendum really benefits the buyers. Any thoughts or suggesting the sellers not sign the addendum as currently written?
We have had a couple situations where the seller didn't have a place to move to, so that addendum does benefit the sense. But well, if a seller has a buyer,
Richard, you're breaking up, unfortunately. So
okay. Have Rich
maybe
respond.
Yeah, maybe just type in your answer if you don't mind. Only because you're breaking up just every few seconds. Sorry about that. Another question, I'm not sure who can answer that. Good question. Are there allowances for the 1031 exchange time limit if it's already begun? I guess it's a no, but anybody? I'm not sure if you know.
I don't think there's been any. I don't think there's been any allowances at this point in regards to the 1031 exchanges. Maybe Alex would be able to address that.
Well, this is another example of these things coming up and needing to be addressed on a case by case, and goes back to the essential services and the transactions and settling and all of those things is now up, for debate.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why this is also a good conversation right now, as once again things coming up, and we're gonna have more and more things. Tina, Alex, anything you guys wanna add before we're gonna wrap it up?
There was a question regarding the AVMs that Tina and I were talking about, the PIWs, and Richard typed in an answer, and a couple other people typed in an answer. There isn't a fixed or set of guidelines that really apply to that. One situation that happens is, let's say the client that's selling the house with you guys just had a refinance done in the last 6 months or 8 months, and there was an appraisal done on the property. If it's in a reasonable price point or a reasonable amount compared to what you're selling for the house, it's really likely that loan that will get done there would apply for a PIW or the AVM that Tina was talking about. Depending on where the down payment comes in, though, they really like to see those things with 20% down if they're going to grant them that appraisal waiver. But that's kind of like the 1031 question. It's just going to keep changing, right? It's still a little early at this point to really touch on what will happen regarding those. I do know that, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are obviously aware of the situation and what they need to do to help these transactions to continue to move forward. And that is one big point they were making regarding the appraisal situation.
Yeah, I'm just going to tag on to that. So Fannie and Freddie do what they want, and I've known that for over 20 years. So if they want to go move to AVMs, then they will move to AVMs to get transactions moving. If they want to go to exterior appraisals, we saw them do that in 2004 and 5 and 6, where they didn't know what they were loaning on, and they were just moving through as they needed to. So I would say you'll probably see more and more exterior appraisals, drive-by appraisals, if you will. coming up in the next probably 30 days. My guess is, just knowing how they operate, that's going to be something that's going to be, because they can look online. Their underwriters can look online. Appraisers can look online and see the condition of the subject property. And the rest of it is just comps and driving the neighborhood.
Thank you, guys. Rich, question for you, because I think that you got a few of those, mostly from our commercial producers, agents. But how do you address, the question was, can tenants keep us from conducting a home inspection or showings and whatever, tenants, for rental properties?
Yes, they can. You know, if they don't feel comfortable somebody entering their house, then yes, they can refuse entry. I mean, that's just the world we're living in right now. There was also a question in regards, we're at the final verification of property and nobody wants to do it. Basically get an email from the buyer saying that he is aware that he has a right to do the verification of property at the close of escrow, and it's not a waiver. It's basically that he's aware that he has this right to do it, and it's the buyer and the seller have agreed that they won't do it. It's not necessarily waiving it, but because of the circumstances, they're not doing it.
Thank you, Rich. One more question. Is there, I'm not sure where this one coming from, but just it's a, could be a good question. Is there any fine being given to agents who holding a public open house?
Not to my knowledge that there's a fine, but it's been deemed you should not be holding an open house at all. You should not be inviting people to a property. We all have to look at it with a camera showing you holding an open house. That would be detrimental to the agent and be detrimental to the brokerage, in my opinion. So I think do not do it.
In the Bay Area, they are issuing citations. But all we have is an advisory and guidelines. It's none of what has been published is law. And that's an opinion based on, what I've been researching and who I've spoken to, that they're guidelines and it's advisory, but they are getting citations in the Bay Area.
Good input as well.
In Long Beach, that it's a misdemeanor.
Go ahead,
in the Bay
Richard.
Area.
I read in Long Beach it's a misdemeanor if you're caught outside for no reason.
Interesting.
Okay, and once again, we don't know 100% what the rules are, because they're changing by the day and by the hour maybe. So, but one thing we know for sure is that it drives people nuts not to have answers, especially in times of uncertainty as such. And there are very few answers right now to a lot of things that we're dealing with. So now it is the time to as business owners, as leaders in the industry, parents, partners, whatever, to be a true leader and to really lead by example and just show patience and courtesy to one another, and help to one another to understand what we're dealing with, if it's in any shape and form.
There is a spirit of cooperation in our profession right now. A lot of these meetings are bringing more engagement, more lean-in conversation. I think everybody should embrace that and feel good about our profession and how we can organize and we can communicate and we can cooperate and help each other, and we will persevere.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, 100%. I want to thank you guys, Nancy, Troxell, board president of Southern Regional, Rich Pisani, broker KW Calabasas, Richard Dascom, broker of KW Coastal Properties, Alex Scar, lender with our coastal office, Tina Burke, licensed appraiser and a realtor. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing a lot of your input in great information. And thank you everybody who been watching us. We had a few hundred people between our video conference and the Facebook Live as well. This session was recorded for reference, so just go on the back on my Facebook page and you can see it as a video in a few minutes. And I can also send you the link directly. Just send me a Facebook message, text, what have you. More questions coming in, so just you have to go back to watch the video and you're going to see all the good stuff that we shared. And we're going to do more of those as we go, because once again, we don't know what tomorrow will bring, but we know that we're going to be here to support one another, and we have amazing leadership in place. So we got this. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Meny.
Okay,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
good day. Stay safe.
Thinking I could never live without you by my side. I learned how to grow on the stage. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. That's the lie. I should have made you leave your. I know that you'd be back to bother me. Walk out the door. Just turn around now. I'm not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hurt me? Why did you think I'd grow? Stay down and die. Will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to fight. I've got all. I will survive. Not to fall apart. Pieces of my broken heart. I feel so sorry for myself. I used to cry, but now I hold somebody new. Change up in those hurts. And so you felt like dropping in and just expecting to be free. Taking all my loving. Weren't you the one? I stayed out. Love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. Go on now, go. Open the door. Don't come anymore. Stay down. And as long as I know, I've got all my love to give. I'll survive.
The broadcast, the Facebook Live.